I hope you're having fun with those motion presets. They're pretty awesome, aren't they? You know, I forgot to mention in the previous lesson that once you've applied a motion preset to a symbol instance, you can then, of course, go and edit and manipulate the animation using the exact same techniques that I had shown you earlier. So in other words, you can manipulate the symbol instance directly on the stage. You can manipulate the curve that we see, the animation path, if you will, on the stage as well using the selection tool or the sub-selection tool and so on, right? So that's great. That's awesome. But in this exercise, I want to show you a different way, perhaps a more precise way, surgical precision, if you will, for editing your animations. And we're going to make use of something here inside Flash called the motion editor. I think you're going to like this. So what I need to do first, though, is I need to simplify my tweened animation that I've created here. I'm still using this sort of this wave animation here. There we go. If I hit enter on my keyboard, that's the motion preset that I have left here. So just really quickly here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my symbol instance, right-click on them, remove the tween. There we go. And then as we saw earlier, I'm going to clean up my timeline just by dragging right across the entire timeline and then hitting Shift F5 on my keyboard. There we go, something like that. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to create a very simple tweened animation and then get into the motion editor here. So all I'm going to do is basically take my symbol instance, right-click on them, and choose Create Motion Tween. And then, of course, we know what happens inside the timeline. And then I'll just drag this guy horizontally across my stage, something like that. So it's a very simple animation, not a whole lot of action here. Once again, because I want to focus on the motion editor here, not on some crazy, wacky animation. Okay, so the motion editor, what he's going to allow us to do is edit our tweened animation, as I say, in a very precise manner. Now, what I'll have you do is head to your window menu and then look for your motion editor. I already have my motion editor open. I can actually see the tab on my screen, but I can choose them here as well from the window menu if I want. So motion editor is the guy we want. There's my tab sitting right there. Now, this guy's going to be a little overwhelming at first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the height of my motion editor. And just give me a second because I'm going to try and reset my screen here. There we go. I want to be able to see my animation in there, but I also want to be able to see my motion editor. Now, probably you're looking at something like this, right? And you're sitting here maybe a little bit bug-eyed, kind of going, what am I looking at here? What is this all about? Well, here's what I want you to do. We have different properties in the left-hand column here, and then we have our timeline over on the right. Now, this value right here, what I want you to do is I want you to crank this all the way to the right. And I've already done that, 24, the viewable frames. You might be looking at 1 here, and it's kind of tough to see what's going on. So change that value to 24, or you can drag them all the way to the right, something like this. There we go. So that's our timeline. I can actually scrub this timeline. And then down on the stage here, you can see my animation playing back, right? Playing backwards and forwards. Okay, and then the left-hand column here, I want to simplify the entire motion editor for you here. So just single-click on these headings here. Transformation, just to collapse him down. Eases, collapse him down as well. Is that a single click or a double click? I thought it was a single click. Anyway, there we go. And then same with basic motion. Just collapse everything right down. This is a much more sort of simplified view for our motion editor. Okay, so let's see what we can actually do with this guy. Well, here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my playhead is all the way over on the right side of the timeline that exists inside the motion editor. And then what I'll do is I'll pop open the basic motion category. There we go. And what I can do inside here is I can adjust things like my X and Y if I wanted to. So I could change the horizontal position of the ending point on my animation or the vertical position on that, again, on that ending point if I wanted to, right? Or I can add in a little rotation if I want, maybe something like this, right? So maybe I decide that this is how I want my animation to wind up. So then again, I can scrub this timeline, and now my instance, my pumpkin head here is rotating as he's moving. So he's not just moving across the stage anymore, he's rotating slightly as well. Maybe I want him to turn all the way around on the stage there when I animate him. So now I'm going to have something like this. Check this out. There, like a rolling pumpkin now. Something like that, which is kind of cool, right? You do all kinds of cool things inside the motion editor here. So what else can we do here? Well, we could throw in a transformation as well if we wanted to. So I'll crank open transformation. I'll close down or collapse down the basic motion. Maybe as my animation plays through, the closer to the end of the animation that my sequence runs, as that progresses, I want the size of my pumpkin head, my jack-o'-lantern, to increase. Well, this is found inside the scale X and scale Y area, and make sure your scale X and scale Y are linked. Just click on that little chain link there, and then try dragging on this value here. Or again, of course, you could click there and set a value. And now what's going to happen is as my cartoon pumpkin head moves and rotates, he also gets bigger as it goes there. Maybe I'll crank that up even more to give you a little bit of contrast here. There we go. So he starts off kind of small, and then he gets bigger and bigger and bigger as he goes, right? Pretty cool. Pretty awesome. Again, it's sort of this idea of surgical precision over our animations. You can get into all kinds of cool things here. We could apply a color effect if we wanted to. Maybe I'll give this a try here. I'm going to apply a color effect. So what we'll do here is we'll collapse down the transformations. You see color effect there, but there's no way to twist this guy open. So click on the little add button there, the little plus button, and I'm going to choose alpha. And what this is if you know about transparency, that's what Flash refers to alpha as. You might remember that. So I'm going to decrease the alpha here. So again, now as my animation progresses, my cartoon pumpkin head now fades out as the animation progresses. Something like this, right? So now I have this fade effect. Now he's not completely faded. I could drag him all the way down to nothing, all the way down to 0 there, and now he completely fades out as the animation progresses. The biggest challenge that I have with the motion editor is at first glance, it seems complicated. And the other issue I have with it is this panel is huge. It's massive. So I can't really see what's going on down on my stage, especially on this tiny laptop monitor, right? So you might have to do a little bit of back and forth here to really kind of get this happening. But this is essentially the result that I have now. If I go and move my playhead back to the beginning here and hit enter, there we go. That's now the result that I have based on the changes that I've made inside the motion editor. Pretty awesome, isn't it? So you're going to have to fiddle with it. It's one of those things where I can show it to you, I can introduce you to it, but it's really one of those things where it's a matter of you spending some time fiddling around with it, getting comfortable with it, and having some fun with it as well. So there you go. There's the motion editor inside Flash.